Hey, Second Amendment Sentinels, if you are still convinced that the shelves at your local gun store are empty just because some panicked gun owners bought up every single box, then let me tell you straight, you are leaving serious money, real-world performance, and genuine peace of mind absolutely on the table. The truth about the ammunition market is far more complex, far more strategic, and far more ruthless than most people ever realize. Between the slick marketing campaigns, the literally 100 different box designs screaming for your attention, and everybody online swearing their favorite load is the only smart choice for everything from plinking to personal defense, it is no wonder that new shooters, responsible concealed carry weapon, permit holders, home defense warriors, and savvy budget buyers often feel completely lost in the chaos. In this video, I am going to rip back the curtain and break down the real small caliber ammunition market in the same no-nonsense, straight-talk way I would if I were standing right next to you at the gun counter, walking a buddy through it. We are diving deep into the true workhorse calibers, the 9mm, the 5.56, the 308, the 22 long rifle, and the mighty 12 gauge. We are going to expose who actually burns through these enormous quantities of ammunition and, crucially, which specific bullet types make the most sense for your dedicated training, your everyday carry, and the absolute non-negotiable defense of your home and family. I have spent countless hours digging through the 2025 Global Ammunition Report. This is not some casual read. This is the definitive deep dive. I have cross-referenced that massive data set with a mountain of defense industry statistics and other crucial market intelligence. Why? So you can absolutely avoid those gut-wrenching regret buys that drain your wallet, stretch every single dollar you invest in your self-defense, and finally understand the real, unvarnished pros and cons behind every single round you are loading into your magazines. This is the truth, the raw data behind the ammunition story. All right, before we even start talking about specific calibers and hot new brands, we need to zoom out, get some perspective, and look at exactly what the numbers actually say. This is not just me wandering around a few Texas gun stores and just giving you my gut feeling that things are busy. No, this information is meticulously pulled from several high-level market and defense reports, and every single one of them tells roughly the exact same chillingly consistent story. When these reports refer to small caliber ammo, they are talking about the stuff you and I actually shoot every single day. This covers all of your rifle, pistol, and shotgun ammunition, generally up to about 20 millimeters. So yes, we are talking about your 5.56, your 7.62, your 9mm, your 22, and your 12 gauge, your everyday rounds, not some monstrous tank shells. Different research firms might draw the statistical box a little differently, but once you strip away all the jargon and the technical mumbo-jumbo, they are all measuring the exact same universe of ammunition. The precise dollar figures might not line up perfectly across every single report, but the undeniable trend, the seismic shift, is absolutely consistent. Globally, small caliber ammunition is not just a multi-million-dollar market. It is a multi-billion-dollar market that is projected to keep expanding, growing steadily and relentlessly, all the way into the 2030s. There is no boom and bust cycle here, no sudden drops. What we are seeing is a rock-solid, unwavering demand from militaries, from law enforcement agencies, and from civilian firearms enthusiasts around the entire world. And that, my friends, is exactly why I dedicated so much time and effort to cross-checking every single piece of data, rather than just building this critical video off of one random PDF I found online. I meticulously looked for the undeniable overlaps, which specific calibers utterly dominate across every single report, which geographical regions consistently show up at the very top of the consumption charts, And most importantly, who do all of these independent reports agree is actually burning through the overwhelming majority of these rounds? Once you layer all of those charts together, a crystal clear and, frankly, shocking picture emerges. A mere handful of calibers and a surprisingly small number of enormous customers are quietly, almost invisibly, steering the entire global ammunition world. This is the real power dynamic behind the ammo you see, or don't see, on the shelves. These are the calibers that truly run the world. Let's dive headfirst into the calibers themselves, because this is where a lot of people who spend too much time on online forums get a serious, humbling reality check. If you spend enough time swimming in the deep end of internet gun culture, you would naturally think that every other shooter out there is running some exotic Wildcat 6-something Creedmoor, or that the entire world of firearms revolves around whatever brand new shiny cartridge just launched at SHOT Show. But when you look at the cold, hard, unvarnished numbers, the global ammunition market is shockingly simple, almost brutally so. Across report after report, year after year, the same 5 colossal calibers keep bubbling to the very top, asserting their dominance without question. We are talking about the 5.56/223, the 7.62/308, the 9mm, the 22 long rifle, and the mighty 12 gauge. These 5 calibers alone, in all their various civilian and military flavors, drive the overwhelming majority of all small arms ammunition production on planet Earth. They are the undisputed kings of the hill. So why these specific 5? What gives them such undeniable, unyielding power in the global market? On the rifle side, the 5.56 and the 7.62 are not just popular, they are absolutely baked into the logistical, strategic, and tactical inventories of militaries and police forces all over the world. We are talking about NATO standardization, decades of ingrained military doctrine, and literally mountains of existing rifles and machine guns designed specifically around these cartridges. This means that factories absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, stop cranking these out without causing a catastrophic global logistics headache. It would be an operational disaster for military forces everywhere. On the pistol side, the 9mm stands as the unquestionable default sidearm round for armies, for police officers, and for responsible concealed carriers from the bustling streets of Europe to the sprawling cities of Asia and right here in the United States. Its ubiquitous presence is a testament to its effectiveness and reliability. Layer in the 22 long rifle and the 12 gauge, and you are looking at the foundational training and utility backbone of the entire planet. The 22 feeds cheap, accessible practice, casual plinking sessions, and even some specialized law enforcement roles that demand precision and quiet operation. The 12 gauge, on the other hand, covers an astonishingly broad spectrum of uses, from breaching doors in critical situations to busting clay targets at the range, and of course putting meat in the freezer for countless hunters. So where does that leave all the other fantastic calibers that populate the gun shop shelves? They are absolutely real, and they matter immensely to the dedicated folks who love them and rely on them. But in the grand scheme of the global market charts, they barely even register. They are statistical footnotes, not market drivers. This fact carries an enormous implication. When a caliber is shared between civilians and governments on a truly massive global scale, it becomes infinitely harder for any political entity or agenda to quietly squeeze it out of existence. Its sheer omnipresence provides a layer of protection that niche calibers simply do not have. Now, let's talk about the actual bullets being fired. The caliber of the cartridge is only half of this complex story. The real crucial twist, the plot development that surprises so many, shows up when you stop asking what kind of cartridge is being shot and start asking what kind of bullet is actually inside that brass casing. If your first guess was that Full Metal Jacket, or FMJ, leads the pack, then you are absolutely correct. FMJ is the undisputed workhorse of the ammunition world. It is incredibly cheap and efficient to manufacture. It feeds reliably in a vast array of firearms. It is perfect for high-volume training sessions and for countless militaries. Around the globe, it is the default standard combat load. When you are running basic training courses, unit qualifications, and massive live-fire exercises that involve thousands of troops, you are not feeding those rifles and pistols premium hollow points. No, you are burning through literal pallets of ball ammunition, day in and day out. It is the economical, practical choice for sheer volume. What truly surprised many people, however, is the next rung down on this ladder of bullet types. It is easy to picture hollow points as some tiny niche category, maybe a box or two for concealed carriers, and that is it, right? But once you actually look at the brutally honest market data, that perception is completely demonstrably false. Across multiple independent reports, hollow point and other expanding bullet designs consistently show up as the second largest category by sheer revenue. This finding perfectly matches what we, as seasoned firearms experts, observe on the ground. Think about it. Police departments across the United States and beyond regularly replacing their duty ammunition, responsible new gun owners grabbing that critical defensive 9mm for their first handgun, and serious hunters investing in soft points and bonded loads for humane and ethical game harvesting. All of that demand from all those sources stacks up to a truly significant market share. These premium rounds undeniably cost more per box, but they are absolutely critical for effective self-defense and for humane hunting, and because of that, people are willing to pay the price. So we've established that Full Metal Jacket, or FMJ, is the undisputed king of volume, followed closely by expanding bullets like hollow points in a strong second place by revenue. Then you have what I call the cool guy stuff: tracer, armor-piercing, and incendiary rounds. These absolutely matter in very specific military roles: adjusting fire, breaking through hardened targets, lighting things on fire, but they represent a much, much smaller slice of total global production. And almost every single round of that specialized ammunition is consumed by governments, not by your typical Saturday morning range trip. So the global picture is crystal clear. FMJ dominates volume. Expanding bullets hold a powerful second position, and the exotic stuff sits firmly on the margins. This is a crucial distinction worth remembering anytime someone tries to paint hollow points as some fringe, extra deadly curiosity in a political debate. Now let's tackle the question that everybody, and I mean everybody, argues about: who is really burning through all of this ammunition? The popular narrative, the one you hear constantly from gun control advocates, is that panicked civilian gun owners are the problem draining the supply. The data, my friends, tells a starkly, unequivocally different story. When you meticulously stack all of the independent reports together, you see the same undeniable ranking, a hierarchy of consumption that shatters the popular myth. At the absolute top, by a mile, are the armed forces, the militaries, and the defense ministries around the entire world. They are the behemoths of ammunition consumption. Below them, in a strong second position, are police, internal security, and homeland-type agencies. After that comes civilian hunting and sport shooting, a significant but still smaller segment. And way, way down in terms of sheer volume, barely a blip on the global radar, is pure self-defense use. The handful of rounds you might keep loaded in a nightstand gun or your everyday carry pistol. On the military side, modern armies are insatiable ammunition eaters. Basic training for new recruits, regular unit qualifications to maintain combat readiness, massive multinational exercises, and of course, real-world combat operations all burn staggering amounts of 5.56, 7.62, and 9mm ammunition every single year. Governments are also the primary drivers of demand for those specialized tracer and armor-piercing loads. A single multi-year government contract for millions upon millions of rounds changes a factory production line far more dramatically than a few thousand individual carry permits ever could. It is simply a different scale of demand. Right behind the military in terms of sheer consumption are the police and various security services. Every single law enforcement officer has to qualify regularly to maintain their certification and proficiency. More realistic scenario-based training, which is thankfully becoming standard, means even more rounds sent downrange. Then you add in federal law enforcement agencies, border patrol teams, and specialized response teams, all of whom are issuing sidearms, rifles, and shotguns that constantly need to be fed with fresh ammunition. Hunters and sport shooters make up the next tier of consumers. A full competition season, regular range days every week, or consistent trap and skeet shooting will absolutely chew through a surprising substantial amount of ammunition, mostly in those same core workhorse calibers we discussed earlier. But the tiny, almost invisible slice that politicians love to point at, the responsible citizen with a couple of loaded magazines for home defense, barely even registers in the global totals. You might buy a few boxes of quality defensive ammunition once or twice a year and do the majority of your training with cheaper FMJ. And while that absolutely matters for your personal safety, it has virtually no impact on worldwide supply chains. So the next time someone claims that ordinary gun owners are inexplicably draining the entire system, remember who truly steers this enormous ship: governments and massive institutions, not the guy buying a single case of 9mm for his range bag. If anything, the cold, hard numbers unequivocally show that lawful self-defense is actually the smallest consumer of ammunition, yet it consistently has the biggest, most visible political target painted squarely on its back. This is the truth they do not want you to know. Let's pinpoint another crucial piece of this complex puzzle, where all of this colossal amount of ammunition is actually going. The authoritative reports dissect the world into distinct geographical regions, and a consistent, undeniable pattern keeps surfacing, revealing the true power centers of ammunition consumption. Right now, without question, North America stands as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the small caliber ammunition market. Depending on the specific study, our region, the United States and Canada, accounts for roughly 4 out of every $10 spent in the entire global small caliber market. That staggering figure perfectly tracks with what we all observe on the ground: a truly enormous U.S. civilian firearms base, one of the world's largest defense budgets that fuels immense military consumption and non-stop rigorous training and qualification cycles for countless law enforcement agencies across the nation. We are the epicenter of ammunition demand. Europe consistently comes in as a solid second place. While firearm ownership laws are undeniably tighter in many European countries compared to the United States, you still find incredibly strong, deeply rooted hunting traditions, rapidly growing sport shooting communities, and, perhaps most significantly, a massive and chilling wake-up call on defense spending after the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. A substantial number of European nations are actively and aggressively rearming, sending critical ammunition supplies eastward to support their allies and simultaneously restocking their own national arsenals at home. And guess what? They are mostly doing it with those same universal NATO calibers. Then there is the Asia-Pacific region, which is currently the fastest-moving, most dynamic player In this unfolding story, defense budgets in economic powerhouses like the People's Republic of China and India are climbing at an alarming rate, and many smaller countries in the region are rapidly modernizing their armed forces. Civilian gun ownership in this region is generally much more restricted than in the United States. But even where it does exist legally, sport and hunting demand is steadily, relentlessly inching upward. The stark reality is this: ammunition factories do not truly care who is on the receiving end of their product. They simply see massive orders, critical deadlines, and lucrative contracts. For you and me, standing in a U.S. gun shop, this global demand means something tangible. Some of the persistent shortages and the frustrating price swings we experience are not just the result of our local state politics or your preferred brand's supply chain issues. Sometimes that case of 9mm or 5.56 you desperately wanted is currently sitting on a pallet, destined for another continent, another military, or another government agency halfway around the world. It is a harsh reality of globalized production. Now let's talk about the corporate battlefield. Who actually manufactures your ammunition? If you casually walk down the ammunition aisle at your local firearms retailer, it appears to be absolutely stocked with a dizzying array of different brands. Winchester, Federal, Remington, CCI, Speer, Aguila, Fiocchi, BPOP, CBC. The shelf is undeniably crowded. But once you peel back those colorful labels, once you look past the branding, a massive number of those familiar names actually roll up into a shockingly small number of colossal parent companies. For instance, Winchester's entire ammunition business is owned by Olin Corporation. Federal, CCI, Speer, and the ammunition division of Remington have, at various times, been clustered together under a single corporate umbrella. European giants like NAMMO, FN, and BAE Systems all hold significant stakes in small-caliber ammunition production, extending their reach globally. And CBC from Brazil owns multiple ammunition brands across diverse international markets. It is not a simple list. It is a complex, intricate, and often opaque web of corporate ownership. We have witnessed major ownership changes in recent years, including a powerful European defense group acquiring the cluster of brands that includes both Federal and Remington ammunition. This means that some of the most familiar, trusted brands on U.S. shelves are now part of a much larger international portfolio, sitting right alongside artillery shells and armored vehicles in their parent company's product line. Why should you, the responsible gun owner, care about this corporate consolidation? Because it cuts both ways, with both benefits and risks. Large global companies certainly have the massive capital necessary to keep factories running 24/7 and invest in brand new cutting-edge production lines. However, this centralized decision-making can also make them far more sensitive and vulnerable to government pressure, to complex export rules, and to politically motivated PR campaigns. For a regular shooter, the lesson is stark and simple. Do not get hypnotized by the sheer number of logos you see on the shelf. Underneath the surface, a handful of incredibly large, powerful players manufacture the vast majority of the ammunition you purchase. So, let's bring all of this critical data back to you standing at the gun counter, or perhaps scrolling through an online cart, trying to make smart purchasing decisions. First, stop beating yourself up for every perceived shortcoming in the market. Yes, civilian panic buying can undeniably make things worse for a little while, creating temporary shortages. But the primary, overwhelming drivers of global ammunition production are always militaries, governments, and enormous long-term contracts. Not you grabbing a few extra boxes when things look weird on the news. Second, start thinking strategically about how you acquire your ammunition. If you are a new shooter, a responsible concealed carry weapon permit holder, or someone building a crucial home defense setup on a budget, then absolutely stick with the proven workhorse calibers: the 9mm, the 5.56, the 308, the 12 gauge, and the 22 long rifle. Build a solid, reliable base of FMJ for consistent training and practice, and then acquire a reasonable, high-quality stash of defensive or hunting loads. You do not have to chase every new caliber or boutique load unless you genuinely enjoy that pursuit and can easily afford it. Third, and perhaps most importantly, keep your head clear and sharp when you hear political talking points about ammunition. The same comprehensive data that unequivocally shows militaries and police burning through the overwhelming majority of the world's ammunition also clearly demonstrates that hollow points are a mainstream, essential part of the market, not some exotic fringe weapon. When someone claims that ordinary gun owners are the core problem, or that your defensive ammunition is some fringe, extra deadly toy, you now possess the irrefutable data to understand exactly how far that claim is from reality. Being a responsible gun owner is not just about marksmanship and safety. It is also about having a deep, nuanced understanding of who makes your gear, who else is demanding it on a global scale, and how those powerful forces collectively shape what you actually see, or do not see, on the shelf at your local gun store. So that is the real, unvarnished story behind who is buying, loading, and burning through all of that ammunition. It is not just the guy with a Glock and 2 spare magazines. It is governments and enormous institutions quietly, relentlessly shaping the shelves we stare at every single paycheck day. If this crucial breakdown helped you breathe a little easier and think a little sharper about what you stock in your own secure supply, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please share this with a friend who is still mistakenly blaming only